The bad weather caught Oliver at the most difficult moment of his journey. The night and the wind had already driven the residents of the forest settlement into their homes. At the same time, a tired traveler of 63 years knocked on the forester's cabin, standing right at the edge of the forest. "Who's there for an overnight stay?" Matt shouted loudly. The big man with a scar on his left cheek was not frightened by the nocturnal visit. It didn't disturb his nap. "I apologize for the impudence," Oliver said to him, squinting from the rain pouring into his face. "Let me wait out the bad weather. I can't take it anymore." Come on in, Father." The host immediately agreed. Even though he was 17 years younger than the guest, he respected his age. "Here, take this robe. Take off your wet clothes. Meanwhile, I'll heat some water." While Matt was busy making tea and preparing a footbath for Oliver, he looked around the small but cozy cabin. It contained an old creaky bed and a worn-out sofa donated by one of the village residents. "So, Father, what brought you to such a remote place?" Matt sat down across from him, pushing a mug of herbal tea closer to the guest. Oliver was afraid to scare him, but didn't want to lie. "I used to be a wanderer, a thief in my past." "Don't worry, you have nothing to steal," he squinted, noticing that his confession didn't frighten Matt in the least. "I need work. Right now, they're harvesting all the crops. The city has become too noisy for me. I want to find a place here, offer my services. There's always something to do in the village in the summer." "So you're looking for a place to stay?" "You can stay right here in my cabin. They're downsizing my job. They don't need my services anymore. I'll move closer to my son in the city. They're expecting a granddaughter, just like everyone in my family." Oliver didn't rush to rejoice. Few people in the village would be happy about a former criminal moving in next door. "Thank you for your trust and kindness. No one has treated me like a human being in a long time. I'm not a killer, don't think that. Life has made me unsociable, first an orphanage, then prison. I'm a complete orphan, never knew parental love. Then I got out, found a job, but ended up in the wrong company. I wanted easy money, I was young and foolish. Even though they warned us, orphans, the temptation of quick riches was stronger. So I got my first criminal record. I didn't actually steal anything, just planned it, but they blamed it all on me. That's how I started down that slippery slope, spent half my life in prisons, and now, here I am, no family, no cabin of my own. But I'll report you to the local police so you don't cause any trouble here." Matt replied after listening to the guest. "You don't look like a thug. I've seen many people in my time. But I don't want to put people at risk. I've lived alongside them for many years." Matt and Oliver became friends within a week. The locals gave him curious glances, and few greeted him, but he had to accept it. Matt showed his tenant the forest, pointed out secret trails on the map, bridges, and places where young people or tourists usually gathered. "You're a good man, Matt." Oliver shook his hand when it was time to say goodbye. "You've helped me a lot, heartfelt thanks to you." "Farewell, Father," Matt smiled. "I'll call my people and inquire about you. You won't disgrace my name, I vouched for you." Though Oliver had to live in challenging conditions near the forest and river, he was happy to have found his own place. The state authorities had downsized the foresters, and they didn't demolish the old shacks. After all, who needed them? For the first time in many years of vagabond life in the city, Oliver felt truly free and cleansed of his past. Initially, the locals had been suspicious of him and weren't eager to make friends. However, over time, they softened their stance. Oliver turned out to be hard-working, unafraid to toil in others' gardens. He earned money by helping to dig gardens or working on a farm. The forest's offerings also came in handy. Sometimes he brought berries, wild fruits, or caught fish from the river for dinner. "Thank you, Oliver," thanked him the old man who took care of his paralyzed wife. "I couldn't manage it on my own, especially with my wife like this. Take this, it's your payment." "What are you doing, Lucas?" Oliver exclaimed. "I don't need anything extra. You and your wife are barely making ends meet. Take it, you've earned it. We were wrong to avoid you. We thought we couldn't expect anything from you. But you turned out to be decent. You work off every penny you receive. The Zamiatans invited you over on Saturday. They're celebrating because their daughter is leaving for the city to study." By the end of autumn, Oliver had made acquaintances with nearly the entire village. People were no longer afraid of him, except for Logan, who had been forewarned about the ex-convict's background. Logan's lack of sympathy for Oliver wasn't about his past, but rather his unyielding character. In mid-October, during an evening stroll near the forest, he passed by the cottages. Wealthy tourists often stayed there, renting the luxurious homes. Oliver usually heard loud music and vulgar laughter coming from there, but this time there were cries from a woman. "Help! Please, someone save me!" The scream was so desperate that it made Oliver uneasy. He rushed towards the cottages, and a girl in her underwear ran toward him. There were visible signs of violence on her neck and cheek, her skin reddened from pain. "I beg you, save me, hide me. Come, come, my dear." Oliver wrapped the poor girl in his coat and led her to the cabin. "Everything will be fine. I'll call the local police." But the story turned against poor Riley. The rich guy who had harassed her turned out to be the son of some influential person. "There won't be any criminal case, and she won't file any complaints either," the scoundrel Logan promised. "If she makes a peep, we'll counter-accuse her, claiming that she tried to seduce him to rob him. And let her prove she had no such intentions, she'll disappear soon." When the local police officer came to get Riley, who was scared to the point of near collapse, she was afraid to say a word. There was no rape. Logan pressured her. "So, there's nothing to accuse anyone of. If you talk about it, you'll regret it." "Yes, how can this be?" A few more minutes, and they would have ruined the girl. Oliver protested, but Logan had leverage over him, too. "And you, don't get involved at all. This cabin belongs to the state. You won't have time to blink before you're out on the street. Look, the girl is alive and well. What's going to happen to her? You have no conscience, Mr. Chief." He drilled Logan with his gaze. "You're on the wrong side." Oliver survived the winter in the company of his loyal friend, the dog Thunder. He found the injured animal in the forest, weak and whimpering. Thunder was already a large adult dog. Apparently, his owner, a hunter, abandoned him after a confrontation with a wild animal left him wounded. The wounds on Thunder's belly resembled those made by a boar's tusks. "Easy, easy," Oliver spoke softly, approaching the wary dog. Thunder didn't growl but regarded the stranger with suspicion. "I want to help you. You need treatment." Carefully approaching the barely breathing animal, Oliver gently picked him up and realized that the dog didn't resist. "Hey, open the door!" he shouted, calling for Nathan, the medic. The medic was too far away, so they had to seek immediate help. "Oliver, are you out of your mind? Why did you bring me this parasite?" Nathan grumbled, but still started examining Thunder. "He's a good dog, not a parasite at all. Look at those eyes." Oliver scratched behind Thunder's ear. "I'll take you in, you won't go to waste." And that's what happened. Thunder gradually recovered, but his wounds required expensive ointments. You'll have a hard time with your wild beast, Nathan shook his head. It's fine, Oliver shrugged, as money was hard-earned for him. I don't mind, he's still a young dog. We need to treat his paws. Let him limp, the important thing is he's not completely without them. Under the watchful eye of his loving owner, Thunder soon frolicked briskly across the snow-covered fields. Despite the severe cold, Oliver took his friend on all his walks. Together, they roamed under the heavy branches of fir trees, chasing white hares, startling birds taking flight from the branches. When the thaw began, the river quickly swelled with water, overflowing its banks, flooding all the ravines and clearings. The houses located in the lowlands were also submerged. People wiped away tears, struggling with this adversity. Oliver's cabin was spared this fate as he was lucky to settle on a hill. From there, he had a beautiful view over the entire village. In any weather, even in the harshest cold, rain, or wind, Oliver would patrol the forest instead of Matt. In the harsh winter season, he tried to feed wild animals as much as possible, as it wasn't easy for them to find food under the snow. His loyal friend Thunder always ran ahead. Quiet, you. Oliver waved his hand, addressing his dog. Because of you, they'll all hide in their burrows. On the way, there were rare islets of dry land where they could encounter hares that had survived the flood. The sight of the mirrored water slowly flowing amidst the trees evoked both admiration and fear. Oliver had only seen such a thing in pictures before, but now he understood the destructive impact it had on the poor animals in the wild. As night approached, Oliver only noticed it when the sun had almost disappeared below the horizon. A twilight haze filled the air, which typically led travelers astray. Suddenly, Thunder stopped and pricked up his ears, looking at the bushes ahead. "What's there, buddy?" Oliver asked him, as if he understood human speech perfectly. The dog slowly made his way through the thickets and soon disappeared. "Thunder, be careful," Oliver whispered. He felt a chilling fear. Thunder rarely focused on something like this. Perhaps, beyond the bushes, he would come across a large animal like a moose or a bear. Oliver had never seen any of them in the forest, but he had heard the local stories. Those who grew up in the village often reminisced about how they used to chase deer or moose in the forest during their childhood. Oliver had neither a gun to defend himself nor any other weapon. He was accompanied only by Thunder and his sturdy stick, which helped him move more nimbly on his aging legs. Suddenly, the forest's silence was pierced by Thunder's shrill, loud, and terrifying barking. Oliver dived into the thicket and only then realized there was nothing to fear. There were no large, dangerous animals nearby. In front of him was a small clearing surrounded by water. But there was someone on it. Oliver didn't immediately understand who it was but moved closer and took a closer look. My goodness! It's a child! In his fur coat, Oliver looked at the 5-year-old Emily, who resembled a doll. She was shivering from the cold and fear in her little brown coat and a hat tied under her chin. Her legs were wet, and her cheeks were red from crying. How did you end up here, my dear? Oliver surveyed the icy water that separated him from the child, but didn't hesitate. He started moving without thinking, instantly feeling the agonizing pain shooting through his body from his feet to his waist, like 1,000 sharp needles. I'll save you now, don't be afraid. Come here, little one. When Emily was in his arms, she clung to Oliver's neck and buried her face in the fur collar. She slowly started to warm up but remained silent. Oliver couldn't comfort her, as he himself was barely able to walk. He knew this stunt would have consequences. The onset of rheumatism would soon make itself known. So, he had to rub his feet immediately with the available ointment and bundle up in the warmth. Thunder was happily wriggling nearby, trying to sniff Emily. She was clenched in fear, afraid of his large snout. Thunder is good and kind. He won't harm you for anything, Oliver reassured her, stroking her back. He helps me, we're friends, and you'll be friends too. The man himself couldn't calm down. How had this little girl ended up in the middle of the flooded forest? Her clothes weren't like the locals wear, and she had a different upbringing. Where were her parents looking? Scared, poor thing? Well, it's all right. We'll find your mommy and daddy. But Emily remained silent. She was just waiting for a warm place. Inside the cabin, it was indeed warm, as Oliver had already heated the stove before going out. Dinner is simple: cabbage soup and homemade sausage. Try it, you might like it. He pushed the plate with soup closer to Emily. Can you at least hold a spoon? But the girl didn't get flustered. She was so hungry that she eagerly started eating the cabbage soup, skillfully scooping it up with a spoon. Now, tell me, why were you alone in the woods? Oliver asked softly. He was worried that Emily hadn't said a word since their encounter. Did Thunder's barking scare you? Can you talk at all? He continued his questioning, but Emily sat quietly, her wide gray-green eyes fixed on him. All right, I won't bother you. You can sit here quietly or lie down on the bed and wrap yourself in a blanket. And if you need anything, just ask. Oliver winked at his guest and settled on the couch with a book. He didn't have a television. Matt had taken it with him, and he hadn't been able to get one of his own yet. But Oliver didn't mind. His neighbors shared books, which helped him pass the long winter evenings. Before Emily fell asleep, Oliver made a few more attempts to get her to talk. Your parents must be worried. If you tell me your name, last name, or address, it will help me find them. Emily remained silent. How long were you in the woods? And how did you end up on that clearing with water everywhere? Oliver tried again, but his little guest kept her silence. He began to suspect that the girl might be mute. All right, he sighed. Go to sleep, and I can tell you a bedtime story. For the first time, Emily reacted to his words, nodding her head. She settled more comfortably on a large cushion and fell asleep quickly, just as Oliver began talking about the Three-Ninth Kingdom. He realized that it would be pointless to travel to the city at night, as everything was closed until morning. And he had no idea where to start looking for the parents of the missing girl. He found it hard to believe that such a young child could have made it to the forest, which was tens of kilometers away from the city, by herself. He had never seen Emily among the locals, so he was sure that she had ended up in the forest for a reason. He couldn't take his eyes off the sleeping child. He knew that her parents were suffering from the loss of their child and had no idea of her whereabouts. They couldn't possibly imagine that she was in the remote wilderness. Oliver envied them. He had never known parental love. He didn't know what a strong, loving family should be like, but that didn't stop him from wanting to have children or grandchildren of his own. He had led a turbulent youth, with too much recklessness in his head. Now he regretted it. Unnoticeably, he delved into his memories when he met Chloe. I don't want to see your damn buddies in my apartment, the young woman with thickly mascaraed lashes fearlessly declared. She approached him and cupped his face in her hands. We have everything we need. What else do you want? We can live normally, you just have to quit. That's the last thing I need. Kasui said. I don't care. Once wasn't enough for you, you want prison again? Chloe. Oliver raised his voice, but Chloe was not easily intimidated. She knew what she wanted and didn't hold back. If you get involved in this again, I'll leave you. Choose either me or your shady deals. Well? Can't decide? she said with disappointment. Oliver never saw his beloved again. He hadn't taken her decision seriously and was soon back behind bars. His buddies had promised him that the deal was foolproof, they'd all make a tidy sum, and then they could go their separate ways because they were expecting a considerable haul. Oliver did plan to quit, but at that moment, he didn't have a penny to his name. He wanted to come to Chloe and show her that he had been right, that it was worth breaking into the apartment of that academic. With the money they would have, they could have had a grand wedding and furnished a nursery. But before he knew it, he was arrested again, and he never got to experience another life. Now, he had no Riley to have children or grandchildren with. The prospect of a lonely old age for someone whom no one needed sometimes frightened him. Persistent thoughts kept Oliver awake. Sleep found him late, and when it came, it was restless. Every time Emily turned on the creaky bed, he would cast a worried look in her direction, making sure she was okay. Grom, who lay on the floor near the stove, also glanced at the little guest from time to time. He loved children and would often play with the local kids, racing around with them. They were used to big dogs and would often fall to their knees to hug the fluffy neck, but not Emily. A few times, Oliver woke up from nightmares, and in the early morning, he jumped up from the couch due to a loud knock at the door. He had never heard such a sound in his small cabin. Emily also looked at him. "Quiet, be quiet. Don't be afraid, there's nothing to worry about," Oliver reassured her. Grom was already barking under the door at the unexpected visitors. Dawn was just breaking outside. Oliver shivered under the covers, put on his jacket, and opened the front door. "What do you need so early? Could have knocked a little quieter." Standing before him was a man dressed entirely in black, with a whole cavalcade of expensive SUVs behind him. "My goodness! Who are you people?" When Oliver appeared from his car, strangers with serious faces began pouring out. They were all tall and broad-shouldered, as if they had been carefully selected. Following them was a businesswoman around 33. Her attire was certainly out of place in the remote wilderness on this spring morning. She looked like a businesswoman. "Good morning. I apologize for the early visit, but have you seen a 5-year-old girl? She has light hair." "Yes, she's here. Your missing girl has been found." Oliver stepped aside, letting the wealthy guest into his humble abode. She didn't seem to notice the surroundings at all. Only the sight of the sleeping Emily elicited joyful laughter and a predatory smile from her. She was like a bird, spotting a mouse from a great height. Right away, Oliver sensed something was amiss. This lady was clearly not the caring mother that the little girl needed. When she saw her, Emily dropped to all fours and tried to crawl under the bed, but she couldn't escape. "My sunshine, what's the matter? Are you scared? I was so worried about you," Audrey said, sitting down in front of Emily, but the girl's face showed only horror. She felt no relief with this strange woman. "She doesn't seem too thrilled to see you," Oliver remarked sarcastically, watching as the child tried to evade the grasp of the strange guest. "Why is she so skittish around you?" But Audrey continued to fawn over Emily, ignoring the persistent recluse. "Emily, what's the matter? Come to me. Let me hug you. Did this man scare you? Did he hurt you?" Now Oliver marveled at how quickly Audrey made him the scapegoat. "Who do you think you are, madam? You can't just accuse me of anything in my own home. The child ran away from me, not the other way around. There are dangerous animals around here, predators, and the river over there has flooded. It's a very dangerous place for such a little girl. So don't blame me for your negligence. If you're her mother, here's a question: can you be trusted to raise a child?" Audrey pulled Emily towards her assertively and stood up with her. "Who do you think you are? Emily is my stepdaughter, and I care for her as my own child. How dare you accuse me?" Audrey raised her voice, thinking it might affect the man. But Oliver was no pushover. He had been through a lot in life and wasn't afraid of a typical female outburst. High-handed ladies like Audrey seemed more like upstarts to him than people with any real authority. "There's no need to shout at me," Oliver calmly responded to Audrey's outburst. "Show me your documents and Emily's documents. Am I correct in understanding that her name is Emily?" "Why should I?" "Because I said so." Oliver interrupted her. "You can stomp around here as much as you like, but I won't give the girl to you until you prove that you are a family. And your threats won't frighten me. You don't need to bother." Audrey's demeanor immediately changed. The role of the suffering mother clearly suited her less than her true self. "Don't stand in my way, or you'll end up as an accomplice. I'll say you kidnapped my stepdaughter, that you wanted to make a quick buck to buy yourself a better house, or I'll come up with something else. Why does a man like you keep a defenseless little girl out here in the wilderness? Emily may not speak, but I can invent something that will have you looking at the sky through prison bars for the rest of your life." Emily's stepmother hissed menacingly. However, this threat had no effect on Oliver. "Sweetheart, I've already served my time, and I know the rules. You don't need to scare me. I'm waiting for the documents." Audrey struggled to keep her composure, trying not to scream out of frustration. She couldn't stand it when things didn't go as planned, and she detested it when someone like him tried to teach her about life. She managed to maintain her self-control and said, "I'll talk to your local police officer, and we'll see whose side he takes." As soon as Audrey stepped outside, Emily clung to Oliver's leg, trembling all over. It was clear that she was terrified of her stepmother, and any notion of family harmony was out of the question. Oliver knew that they would take the little girl away, as he had no legal standing to fight for her. Why was she so quiet and soundless? How did she end up in the desolate forest? These were the questions that should have concerned Logan as well, but when he arrived, he merely smiled apologetically at Audrey. "Audrey, I apologize for this," he gestured towards Oliver's dwelling. "He's been living here as an anarchist all his life. What can you expect from such a scoundrel? I don't care about his beliefs. I want him detained for a day or two. I won't tolerate him interfering in my affairs again. Arrest him right now and take him away. Let him know not to mess with me." "I'm happy to do that, Audrey." Logan rubbed his hands together in anticipation. "I've wanted to lock him up for a long time, but there was no reason. Now, a great opportunity has presented itself." When Oliver saw the contented look on the local officer's face, he knew what awaited him. "So, Mr. Chief, has the city council given you a pat on the back? Are you all pleased with yourselves? Don't be sarcastic. It's not the time for that now. Audrey is taking the girl, whether you like it or not. You, on the other hand, get ready. We're going to the station, and you'll provide an explanation. Yes, you're telling me straight up that she complained about me and is waiting for me in jail. I'm ready to account for my actions, and if I were in your shoes, I'd take a closer look at this person. Clearly, there's something wrong with their family. How did a little girl, and a rich one at that, end up here in the middle of nowhere? Coincidence? Spare me your babble. Get dressed. Let's go." Grom, the dog, followed his owner to the police car, barking and jumping, sensing that something was amiss. "Quiet, buddy, quiet. You'll be in charge here, and I'll be back soon." After patting his beloved pet on the head, Oliver got into the car. Audrey watched the car with satisfaction, and Emily disappeared from her sight once again. She was hugging the big and brave Grom, who whined for his departed owner. Goodness, Emily, leave the dog alone. He's probably full of fleas. Who knows what kind of disease he's carrying? Get in the car, let's go home. The girl didn't want to obey, but one of the policemen in the group picked her up and carried her to the luxurious car. Inside the police station, Oliver didn't hear anything new. The officer was sifting through his old convictions, shuffling papers that only annoyed the man. Will there be anything regarding the case? Oliver asked wearily. Don't get cheeky. By law, we have the right to detain you for a specific time. I need to make a phone call. My dog needs to be fed, and he has a routine. Routine? Logan shook his head. You can call now. Your dog won't die. In the holding cell, Oliver encountered a typical crowd: thieves, troublemakers, and drunks. He hadn't interacted with people of this kind for about 8 years and felt horrible being back in such an environment. Nausea welled up in his throat from the disgust. How had he managed to waste so many years of his life in prison? What had he gained from it? Hey, old man, are you the latest addition here? Someone's voice rang out. Stop talking nonsense, kid, you'll stay healthier that way. Oliver quickly cut him off, making it clear to the others that he wasn't one to be trifled with. So it's you. Well, didn't any women in the village catch your eye? Come on, tell us how you ended up here. Oliver was moved to a separate cell the same evening. Logan thought he might be in for it from the other detainees, but he was wrong. Oliver could easily shut up anyone without prospects. For 2 days, he was held in isolation without being charged. He had relaxed, waiting for his release, thinking Audrey's threats were just empty intimidation. Oliver, get up, it's time for questioning. What's going on? He jumped up from the bench, which had already served as a bed for some time. His older body was not thrilled about the dreadful conditions he was in. You'll find out in a moment. Oliver couldn't believe his eyes when he saw the statement written by Audrey. Citizen Audrey accuses you, Oliver, of theft and the illegal retention of her stepdaughter Emily. What nonsense is this? What theft? Is she out of her mind? Where's the evidence? Where's the sign of violence, medical examination? But shouting wouldn't help in this situation. Oliver had fallen out of favor with the wealthy upstart Audrey, and now he might pay for it with his reputation and a few years of his life. And he didn't have too many years to spare. It was well known that prison doesn't extend one's life. Oliver had frequently caught colds, and early onset rheumatism hadn't appeared for no reason. I want to warn you right away, the public defender said, the case is hopeless. How can you say that to your clients? Oliver protested immediately. Now he was sitting in his cell on pins and needles, and his fate was being decided by others' dirty hands, which was very frightening. I'm obligated to be honest and state all the facts, Mr. Rhodes responded. With his experience as an attorney, he could make such statements with almost 100% certainty. Emily, our only witness, can't speak. I believe you, and I understand your frustration. But Audrey's word against yours, and hers carries more weight, I'm afraid. What am I supposed to do? You can't help me at all, and I won't sit here for nothing. Oliver rambled on, feeling like he had no support. He had no money or influential friends to give him any hope. Oliver didn't want to accept the injustice happening in the legal system. I've honestly accounted for all my actions before the law, but this is slander. What is the case built on? Only the testimony of that scum? Why would I need someone else's child? I can barely make ends meet on my own. Your case is making headlines in all the newspapers. Emily is known throughout the county. And when the press knows about it, they need a culprit. I'm sorry that it's you. The trial will go on, after all. I'll do everything within my power to reduce your sentence, Mr. Rhodes promised. But I can't do more than that. The prosecution is on their side, and you shouldn't expect any leniency. The investigation stretched on for a month and a half. Oliver had to adjust to the conditions he was now living in and to the thought that everything might not turn out in his favor. Shortly after his conversation with the lawyer, he started receiving substantial packages with delicious teas and expensive smoked sausages from someone named Caitlin. She requested a meeting, and Oliver agreed. Before him sat a plump woman in her late 50s. She appeared well-groomed, and Oliver didn't know what to expect from her. "Oliver, I'm so sorry that you're here," she almost cried. "My name is Caitlin, and I work as a cook in Emily's father's house. Poor girl. I was so afraid that something would happen to her. I'm grateful that you found her. She's like a granddaughter to me. I care about her deeply. What do you know about this Audrey? And who is Emily's father? Can he help me in any way? Why did he allow all this circus to happen?" Oliver started asking, realizing that Caitlin might be of help. "I'm in a desperate situation. I'm not guilty of anything, but no one can get me out of here. Tyler can't influence anything. He's in a coma," Caitlin sobbed. Since that meeting, Oliver and Caitlin didn't stop their communication, and they began exchanging letters. Knowing that at least one person cared about his fate warmed Oliver's heart. He was grateful to Caitlin for her attention and always welcomed her parcels. Through her, he learned more about the Solomaton family and Emily, who had transformed from a once cheerful and open child into a timid shadow. Left alone with her stepmother, Emily was going through difficult times. With her father hospitalized, there was no one to stand up for her. Audrey didn't sit well with her from the start. She was constantly clinging to her dad and competing with little Emily for his attention. "I came up with an activity just for the two of us. What do you think about going on a cruise?" Audrey whispered into Tyler's ear. "But what about Emily? She's already growing up without her mother, and I'm always busy with company matters. Caitlin will become closer to her than me." The perplexed man responded, "We can take her with us. It might bring you closer. You've mentioned that you're afraid of children, but I never thought you two would have trouble getting along." Emily didn't like Audrey from the beginning. Doubts about her new stepmother's honesty began to form in her young mind. When Tyler wasn't at home, Audrey would become a completely different person, rude, capricious, demanding. She would boss the staff around, completely ignoring the child's presence, and was always talking on the phone. Emily would often overhear the same tone when Audrey spoke with her father. So, she tried to eavesdrop. She was jealous of her dad and didn't want him to love such an unpleasant woman. Only Audrey was speaking to someone named David. "This little brat is driving me crazy," she complained to her lover over the phone. "She follows me around, seeking attention. But I'm not her mother. I hate children. Be patient, my love, it won't be much longer," a gravelly male voice comforted her over the phone. "I've got almost everything ready. We just have to wait for that day, and then we'll be living the high life." Emily didn't entirely understand what those words meant, but she was sure that Audrey was deceiving her father. But her life turned upside down very soon. Tyler was involved in an accident and never regained consciousness. Emily was left alone with her worst enemy. It was Audrey's aggression that made her feel unsafe in her own home. The stress Emily experienced after hearing the news of Tyler's coma led to a psychological reaction in the form of mutism. The girl simply closed up and stopped speaking. Regardless of the doctor's efforts, Emily didn't respond to treatment. Don't believe in luck after this, Audrey exclaimed triumphantly while talking to David via a video call in her bedroom. That little brat has stopped talking. She won't be able to blabber anything even if she finds out something. You're a dangerous woman. Her lover laughed. You nearly put your husband into the grave, and you've terrified the girl into muteness. You're quite the villain. Caitlin visited Oliver a few days before the court hearing. His heart was pounding, but her presence brought him strength. Thank you for coming, Caitlin. I can't find peace here. I'm so nervous. I'm worried about you. This witch has destroyed so many lives. It all started with her. And no one can prove anything. Caitlin took Oliver's hands to share some of her calmness and joy. At the trial, Emily and I will represent the prosecution, but don't let that upset you. We're with you in spirit, but Audrey won't let Emily out of her sight, and she won't go anywhere without me. They frightened that poor child so much that she's afraid of her shadow. She only falls asleep with me. So now, not only am I their cook, but I'm also a nanny. Emily doesn't interest her at all, she's just in the way. On the day of the court hearing, Caitlin was extremely nervous. She tried to avoid Audrey's attention and finally managed to talk to Mr. Rhodes' assistant in the restroom. I only discovered this video this morning, she whispered, trying not to attract attention. Emily was running around with my phone, making a video for her dad a long time ago, and today it caught my eye. Please show it to the lawyer, right now. Oliver was noticeably anxious, sitting to the left of Mr. Rhodes. Only the attorney appeared much calmer than usual. When the prosecution presented all their evidence in favor of Oliver's guilt and called their witnesses, Mr. Rhodes was granted permission to speak. Your Honor, I would like to present to the court a piece of evidence that has not been previously included. This video was made by Emily herself, 2 weeks after accusing my client of her kidnapping. Despite the prosecutor's objections, the judge allowed the video to be played. In it, you could see a white vanity table in Audrey's bedroom with a laptop placed on it. From the screen, a smiling David was looking at her with excitement, speaking enthusiastically about his lover. You're my little villain. I only wonder, why did you get hooked on this old man? You've almost ruined him before the trial. He would have been fine in his little hut, but no, you wanted to compete even here. You would have heard how he talked to me. Audrey responded indignantly. No fear in her eyes, and even Emily dared to go to him. She didn't come to me immediately. I had to humble myself in front of her. It infuriated me. He'll spend a few years in prison, that will teach him. He's spent his whole life in prisons, it's where he belongs. The courtroom fell into silence. Audrey was petrified by what she saw on the projector screen, wishing she could disappear into the ground. She felt utterly humiliated. On the other hand, Emily, who had been losing sleep over her fear, suddenly jumped up from her seat and shouted, "She's bad. She tormented me," and immediately fell silent. The shock silenced the members of the hearing, who all turned to look at Emily. It took her a moment to realize that she had spoken aloud. Anger had welled up inside her, and she had given in to it. I ran away from her myself, she didn't kidnap me. We went on a picnic in the forest, and I hid. I ran and then found a river. Grandpa is not guilty, he saved me. He's a good man. Emily pointed at Oliver, who covered his face with his hands, crying. After seeing this evidence, I ruled to release Oliver immediately, the judge declared and banged his gavel. Caitlin immediately stood up and led Emily to Oliver. All three embraced, wiping away tears. Meanwhile, court bailiffs approached Audrey and handcuffed her wrists. I'm not guilty of anything. I just misspoke. He has to know his place. Audrey began to throw a fit, but everyone understood that she was not telling the whole truth. She's a wicked woman, Oliver said, bidding her farewell. Well, you'll get what you deserve. Never mind her, Oliver. God will punish her. We need to eat. They must have served you some terrible food in there, and I've prepared so much. Emily, would you mind if Grandpa Oliver came over to our house? No. I also invite you for lunch. The little girl shyly smiled and pulled the adults towards the exit. Oliver rode in a taxi, barely able to control his emotions. He couldn't believe he was going to be a free man again. Mr. Rhodes had warned him from the start that there was no chance of an acquittal. No matter what, Oliver was going to jail. But at the last moment, everything had turned upside down. Some small detail had changed his life and granted him freedom. My little bird. Oliver turned to the girl, who was looking into his eyes with curiosity. Thanks to your video today, I found my freedom. You saved me. You preserved one human life, and that's invaluable. Thank you. Just then, Caitlin's phone rang. Her expression changed immediately when she looked at the screen. I'm listening? She spoke in a voice that wasn't hers, swallowing a wave of emotion. What did you say? No, this can't be. How wonderful. We're on our way. We're coming right now. We're going to the clinic, Caitlin said to the driver. Emily, my sweetie. Daddy has woken up. He woke up? Emily squealed and hugged Caitlin, the one kind person who remained by her side when the whole world seemed hostile. They hurried to Tyler's room. Oliver was overjoyed not only for himself, but also for the little girl who would no longer feel unwanted. Her father had woken up, which meant everything would soon fall into place. Daddy. Emily burst into the room and immediately jumped onto her father's bed, wrapping her legs around him. My princess. Tyler held his daughter as tightly as he could with his weakened arms. My little one, how have you been without me? Tyler. Caitlin immediately burst into tears and hugged him as a mother would. Tyler, how could you? Why did you leave us? You won't believe everything that's happened. We just came from the court. From the court? Tyler exclaimed, and only then did he notice Oliver, who was modestly lingering by the door. And who are you? Doctors confirmed that Tyler was in excellent health. The injuries from the accident have healed, brain activity is normal, no abnormalities, the doctor stated. But don't rush to get back to your normal life. Tyler, you need some rest and a gradual dose of information. There's no need to overwhelm him with all the events that have happened in your absence. I recommend finishing your visit today and returning tomorrow. Saying goodbye to Emily and Tyler was not easy. The little girl refused to go home, knowing that her father would be left alone in the hospital once more. Oliver, Tyler called him when he was about to leave the room. Thank you so much. I didn't even know what was happening with my family. I felt so helpless, I could have lost my daughter, but you didn't let that happen. I'll never forget your kindness. Get well soon, Oliver smiled. She needs you a lot. You have a great daughter. Caitlin insisted that Oliver stay overnight at Tyler's house. I've known him since he was little. He probably would have suggested it himself. Well, where are you going, looking all lovely for a night? Caitlin complained as she hovered around Oliver. I have my dog there, he's probably been acting up, Oliver made up an excuse. Oliver felt awkward staying at the wealthy house, he felt insignificant in such luxury. That's a beautiful dog. Emily replied. We'll go see him tomorrow, right, Grandma Caitlin? So they returned to the village. The next day, Oliver, accompanied by Caitlin and Emily, went to his little house. Nature was in full bloom for the season. Young people roamed around until dark, and people tended to their gardens. He had been the one feeding everyone in the area. "So, you've restored your good name?" a neighbor said, shaking hands with Oliver. "I have. Justice has prevailed after all," Oliver replied. Grom, his dog, rushed out of his enclosure and pounced on Oliver, licking his hands and face. "Come on, quit it," Oliver said sternly, but then burst into laughter. "I've missed you, you goof. I was worried I'd never see you again." Caitlin and Emily didn't stay long at Oliver's house. They thought he needed time to think about the recent changes in his life. Oliver was grateful for this because he had a lot to ponder. He had narrowly escaped prison. He had wanted to do good and save the little girl, but he had almost ended up behind bars. Where was the justice, and how could the earth bear such vile people like Audrey? During this time, the police arrived at Tyler's house to confiscate Audrey's laptop, which contained valuable information for the investigation. Caitlin had made a complete record of her phone, making her and David the main suspects in Tyler's accident. "There's no point in resisting. The evidence of a criminal conspiracy is clear," the agile lady investigator warned. "Fine, I'll write a confession. Just let it count as time served. I won't go to prison for long," Audrey grumbled, crossing her arms over her chest. "It's all about money. I had to gain Tyler's favor, marry him, and then eliminate him." Audrey understood that she had nowhere to go and would have to answer for her actions. Tyler wouldn't allow her to escape punishment. He would use all his connections to have his ex-wife locked up. He loved his daughter deeply, and he would never forgive Audrey for what she had done. She understood this, so she cooperated with the investigation. Oliver wasn't surprised when he noticed Tyler's SUV parked outside his house upon returning from a walk with Grom. He had already been discharged and was allowed to return to his business. "It's beautiful here," the guest exclaimed as he surveyed the surroundings. "Do you want to buy this house?" Oliver asked with a smile. "It's a great place for relaxation. You'd have your own garden. Would you like to live here?" "Well, I haven't properly thanked you, but I've come to make amends. I've looked into your case, and your past doesn't scare me. I know you're happy with your life here, but I can offer you more. I'm offering you the position of gardener in my house. You'll have your own accommodation, spacious and comfortable. In my yard, there's a nice guest house, and you can take Grom with you. Emily's been talking his ears off about him." Tyler laughed and looked at Oliver intently. "I'll pay you well. The money is good. I need a capable person, and you live honestly. Caitlin only has good things to say about you, and Emily thinks you're a hero. Don't turn me down. It will be good for all of us." "Without your assurance, I wouldn't have come here," Oliver said, pushing away the steaming cup of tea. "Absolutely serious," Tyler nodded. "All right, I agree. I don't have much to lose here, and an offer like that is hard to turn down." Oliver was amazed when he saw the house he'd be living in. He hadn't expected his guest house to be a 4-bedroom structure with its own veranda. For Grom, they'd set up a sturdy kennel in case he preferred to sleep outside, and inside the room, there was a soft bed. "I got this for Grom," Emily boasted, gently petting the dog, who gratefully licked her hands. "We forest dwellers aren't used to such accommodations." Oliver chuckled, surveying his new home. He approached his new responsibilities with great responsibility, and Tyler was pleased with his work. He often invited Oliver over for dinner, while he usually missed lunch. So Emily sat down with Caitlin and Oliver for lunch. She lacked grandparents and enjoyed the warmth of those who were there. They went on walks together, made new friends at the playground, and Grom, always a step ahead, would often startle children with his loud barking, only to end up in their curious, friendly hands. Well, everyone's busy. Caitlin smiled, sitting down on a bench in the shade of the trees next to Oliver. She's so lovely, almost like a family member, she observed as she watched Emily, who had just slid down a slide. I've grown fond of her as well. I've never had a wife or children. But, at my age, I've been given a gift. Oliver smiled and looked at the girl. I'm very lucky to have met this family. And you, too, Caitlin. Oliver reached out and touched the woman's hand, gazing into her eyes. I can't remember the last time I talked to someone and confided in them. I feel like a young boy. He lowered his head. You mean a lot to me, very much. I want to say. I know, Caitlin said with a knowing smile. Caitlin leaned in closer, leaving a modest kiss on Oliver's withered cheek. I've known for a while. There's no need to say it. It's what the youngsters want to hear, but we're doing just fine without those 3 little words. Oliver felt emboldened and embraced his beloved by the shoulder. Who would have known that everything he had yearned for in life would finally be his?